Rebecca Russell was given exactly 2 hours to throw clothes into a bag and leave her life behind.
No questions, sweetheart. Just do as I say. Your life depends on it.
She had never heard terror in her father's voice before. It made her hands shake.
At the hotel, they'll give you a new name. You can't contact anyone. Not me. Not your mother.
The sedan rolled to a stop outside a motel. 2 agents in dark suits stood under the lobby overhang.
Dad, what is going on? Why can't I talk to Mom?
The agent stepped forward. Her name was Linda Baker. She would go to Oregon. She could never contact her family again. George pulled her into a hug so tight she could barely breathe. Then he let go.
I will come for you. I swear. Just wait for me.
She watched his taillights vanish. She was 19, alone, and she had just become someone else. 18 years later, in a small Oregon town, a woman named Linda Baker woke before sunrise and checked her phone. There were no messages. There never were. But every morning she reached for it anyway.
You'll find the biology textbooks in aisle 3, left side, near the window.
She walked the rows, adjusting spines. No one knew she waited for a man who promised to come back. On the drive home, she passed the same quiet houses. An ordinary life built on a lie. At home, she pulled a worn envelope from a drawer. Inside, the only photograph she kept.
He said he'd come for me. He swore.
But George Russell never came, and his daughter started to believe the worst. 200 miles away, Donna Russell had been told her daughter ran off with a married man. The shame was absolute. Her mother never searched. Her sister grew up thinking she'd been abandoned. And Rebecca carried that lie for 18 years. That ordinary morning, a sharp knock cut through the quiet of the kitchen.
Ms. Baker? My name is Daniel Reeves. I'm with the FBI.
He held up a badge and spoke her real name, the one she'd buried under Linda for 18 years.
Rebecca Russell. That name was a ghost.
I'm here about your father. George Russell died 3 weeks ago. I worked with him on the case that forced your relocation. He never stopped trying to protect you.
Protect me? He left me in a motel and never looked back.
He was placed under a gag order himself. The threat against you came from your Uncle Mark. But now the danger is gone, and I have something he wanted you to see.
From inside his jacket, he produced a sealed envelope. Her name, Rebecca Russell, was written in her father's hand, the first letter she'd seen in 18 years.
That handwriting. I'd know it anywhere.
Your father was an accountant for the Department of Justice. He testified against a money launderer named Marcos Oliveira. Oliveira had ties to your Uncle Mark. He threatened to use you to silence your father.
Why not put all of us in protection? Why just me?
The threat was targeted at you specifically, and your parents couldn't both vanish without drawing attention.
George was pulled into a briefing room. The FBI gave him 4 hours to decide, disappear his daughter or risk her life.
He chose to be the one to take you, knowing your mother would hate him for it.
The married man story, that was the cover. To make everyone stop looking.
It was the only story that would make the family stop looking without raising suspicion.
Rebecca stared at the envelope. Her father had let her mother believe she'd abandoned them. The anger seared through her confusion.
How do I know any of this is real?
Without a word, Daniel reached into his briefcase and removed a redacted FBI file.
Protective order. Your father's signature is on page 4.
She traced the familiar loop of George's signature on the protective order. It matched the envelope in her hands.
He wrote that letter 16 years ago, the day after he placed you. He made us promise to deliver it if he couldn't come himself.
My hands won't stop shaking. What if this letter doesn't fix anything? What if it breaks me open all over again?
I'll wait on the porch. Take all the time you need.
The kitchen door clicked shut. She sat frozen, alone with her father's handwriting. That sealed envelope held every question she'd ever had. It was an answer she had waited 18 years to hear, and she was terrified to hear it. With trembling fingers, she slid a knife under the seal. The paper crackled after 18 years of silence. My dear Rebecca, they told you I left. I didn't. I never stopped fighting to come back. Your Uncle Mark was going to hurt you to get to me. The FBI gave me 4 hours to make a choice. I chose your life over your life with us. I let them think you ran away so they'd be safe too. I know you hate me, but I loved you more than I thought I could love anything. Please forgive your old man if you can.
He didn't abandon me. He saved me.
The letter fell to the table. A sob wrenched out of her, raw and awful. For the first time in 18 years, the weight on her chest wasn't abandonment. It was grief.
All that anger. And he loved me the whole time.
She pressed the letter to her cheek, inhaling the faint scent of old ink and her father's long-gone breath. A cautious knock on the door. Daniel stepped back inside and saw the letter on the table, soaked with tears.
There's more. He didn't just leave you words. Your father opened a blind trust in your new name. For 18 years, he deposited his salary, keeping only what he needed to survive.
Rebecca stared at the statement. $1,940,000.
He starved himself so I could have a future.
And he left you this.
A second envelope, smaller than the first. Inside, a handwritten list.
Donna Russell, 42 Maple Street. My mother's address. And Amanda and 2 children.
They were never told the truth about you.
She held the key to everything, her family's doorstep, and the means to reach it. Now all she needed was the courage. Daniel left after a quiet goodbye. Rebecca sat until the light failed, the address list and trust statement spread before her.
What if they slammed the door in my face? They think I ran off.
She pulled out the old photograph, the one she'd kept hidden for 18 years. A family she didn't know anymore.
But Dad said I chose your life. I have to believe that.
She read the letter again, tracing the words. Please forgive your old man. The paper was damp from tears. At first light, she reached for the phone. Her voice was hoarse, but steady.
1 ticket, please. To Milwaukee. Today.
She hung up and pressed the phone to her chest. There was no taking it back now. She packed a single bag, clothes for 2 days, the letter, the trust statement, and the photograph. She zipped the bag and stood, looking at herself in the mirror. Rebecca Russell, not Linda. At the airport gate, she stared at the boarding pass. Milwaukee. The word felt like a foreign country. She pressed her forehead to the cold window, watching the land flatten beneath the clouds.
What do I even say to her? Hi, Mom. I didn't run away. Dad saved me.
The rental car's GPS led her through streets she hadn't seen since she was a teenager. Every turn tightened her chest. The gas station, the church, the park where she'd learned to ride a bike. She slowed the car at the top of Maple Street. A blue house with a white porch. Home. She parked under the old oak tree and sat gripping the steering wheel, her knuckles white. Her feet carried her up the cracked concrete path. The porch light flickered on. She lifted her hand, hesitating. The doorbell button shone in the dim light. At 8:11 p.m., Rebecca Russell raised her hand to knock on her mother's door. She knocked 3 times. The sound disappeared into the house like a stone into deep water. Footsteps padded toward the door. The chain rattled, and a narrow crack of light fell across Rebecca's face.
Can I help you? Mom, it's me.
Donna's hand fumbled with the chain. The door swung open, and she stood frozen, staring at the stranger who sounded like her daughter.
It's Rebecca, Mom.
For one long second, nothing. Then Donna's face crumpled, a sound escaping her that was halfway between a gasp and a sob.
Rebecca? Oh my God.
She reached out, trembling fingers touching Rebecca's cheek, as if checking she was real. Then she pulled her into a fierce embrace, sobbing her name over and over. They held each other on that doorstep, 18 years of silence and loss pouring out in tears that could not be measured, and the world beyond them disappeared. Donna pulled her inside, still clutching her arm. The living room looked smaller, crowded with the years.
Where have you been? Why did you leave us?
I didn't leave, Mom. Dad put me in witness protection. He had to, or I would have been killed.
Donna's face went slack. The word protection hung in the air between them.
Witness protection? From what?
From Uncle Mark. He was working with a Brazilian money launderer. They were going to use me to get to Dad.
Rebecca told her everything, the 4 hours, the hotel, the lie that was told to keep the family safe.
I hated you for leaving. I hated him for letting you go all these years.
The weight of 18 years of wrongness crushed her. She wept for her daughter, for her husband, for the time that could never be returned.
We were both victims, Mom. He did it to save us. He loved us the only way he could.
Rebecca pulled the envelope from her bag and held it out.
He wrote this for me 16 years ago. He wanted you to read it.
Donna's fingers trembled as she unfolded the paper. The handwriting she'd loved for 40 years covered the page.
I chose your life over your life with us.
She read the rest in silence, tears sliding off her chin and smearing the ink.
He did this for all of us. I thought he'd abandoned her.
He believed not knowing was safer. He loved you too much to let you carry the fear.
Rebecca placed the trust statement in Donna's hands. $1,940,000.
He starved himself for her all those years, and I resented him.
They sat together on the sofa, the letter between them, shoulders touching. For the first time in 18 years, the silence was shared. Donna pulled away suddenly, groping for the phone on the side table.
Amanda, come to the house, right now. Don't ask questions, just come.
She hung up before Amanda could reply, then turned back to Rebecca with a look of desperate hope. Minutes later, the front door flew open. Amanda rushed in, still in her apron, out of breath.
Mom, what is going on? You scared me to...
Her words died when she saw the woman by the sofa. The same dark hair, the same hazel eyes.
Rebecca, is that really you?
Rebecca nodded, and Amanda collapsed into her arms, a sob tearing from her chest.
I was told you ran away. They said you didn't want us.
It wasn't true. Dad had to protect me. I'll explain everything, but I'm here now.
I have 2 girls, Mia and Chloe. They're 9 and 6.
Rebecca stared at the little faces, her nieces, 2 girls who'd grown up hearing she'd abandoned them.
Can I meet them? I don't want them to think I didn't care.
The next morning, Amanda brought them. 2 small girls in mismatched socks, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Rebecca knelt to their level, suddenly afraid. Her voice came out in a whisper.
Hi, I'm your Aunt Rebecca. I have a picture of your grandpa. Would you like to see?
The older one, Mia, reached out and touched Rebecca's cheek with a tiny finger.
Yes, sweetheart. I'm your aunt. And I'm so sorry I missed so much.
Amanda sank onto the sofa, watching her daughters climb into Rebecca's lap. Donna stood in the doorway, a hand pressed to her heart. For the first time, the room wasn't heavy with loss. It was full of new voices. That night, they gathered around the kitchen table. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, and 4 glasses of water.
I was a librarian, Linda Baker, quiet woman in Oregon. I never married. I guess I was too busy waiting for a letter that never came.
Amanda set her fork down. The confession hung in the air, raw and unshielded.
I was 12 when Mom told me you'd run off with a married man. I cried for weeks, thinking you didn't love us.
Rebecca reached across the table, taking Amanda's hand in her own.
I loved you every single day. I just wasn't allowed to show it.
I never stopped hoping. Every time the phone rang, I thought it might be you. Even when I was angry, I still hoped.
She wiped her eyes with a napkin, but a smile broke through, fragile and real.
A toast to Dad. He gave us back to each other the only way he could.
They lifted their glasses, voices cracking around the words. The room felt different tonight, less like a wound, more like a beginning. She slipped out before dawn, a small bouquet of white roses resting on the passenger seat. She knelt at the grave, her fingers tracing the engraved letters, George Russell, beloved father.
I understand now, Dad. I know why you did it.
She laid the roses against the stone, then pulled a photograph from her coat, the one taken in the park yesterday.
You chose my life over my life with us. I wish I could hug you one more time.
The words seemed to soak into the earth that held him. She wept openly, but for the first time, the tears weren't made of anger. She stayed until the sun broke over the oak trees, then rose with a lightness she hadn't carried in 18 years. The trust fund had given her security, but this moment gave her something far greater. She walked out of the cemetery carrying her father's love openly, for the first time not as a wound. At the cemetery gate, a familiar car idled. Donna stepped out, a blanket folded over her arm. She walked to Rebecca without a word, took her hand, and led her to a bench under the old oak. They sat in silence, shoulders touching, watching the sunlight creep across the headstones. After a long moment, Rebecca reached into her coat and pulled out a worn leather wallet. She opened it to the photograph she had carried for 18 years, the one with all of them.
You kept this all these years?
It was all I had left of you. I looked at it every night.
Donna's thumb traced the tiny face of the daughter she had lost, her own tears falling onto the old paper.
I never stopped loving you, Mom. Not for a single day.
They sat together as the morning grew warm, the wallet open on Donna's lap, their hands entwined on top of it. That afternoon, Rebecca pulled a real estate listing from her bag and spread it across the kitchen table.
I want to buy a small place nearby and use the rest to start a scholarship in Dad's name for kids who need a second chance.
He would have loved that. A scholarship for kids who need hope.
She nodded, steady despite fresh tears. The money wasn't a fortune to hoard, it was a message to carry forward. Later, Mia and Chloe burst through the back door. The younger one ran straight to Rebecca, grabbing her hand.
Aunt Rebecca, come see my new drawing.
The word aunt struck Rebecca cleanly in the chest. She knelt to look at the crayon masterpiece. That evening, the dining table groaned with casserole and cornbread. Amanda told a story about the girls' first day of school, and everyone laughed. Rebecca looked around at the faces lit by candlelight. Her mother, her sister, two little girls who'd just learned her name. This was the life her father had bought with silence, and she would never waste a single day of it. She flew back to Oregon on a Tuesday, the ticket one way this time. The bungalow key felt strange in her hand, familiar, but no longer hers. She packed the last box with reverent care, the old letter and the worn photograph, now tucked beside the new family portrait from the park.
Goodbye, Linda. You kept me safe, but I can be myself now.
On the front porch, she handed the keys to the neighbor who had watered her plants for 18 years. The woman nodded, eyes wet. They had barely spoken in all those years, but today the goodbye was full. She slid into the driver's seat, and the little house framed itself in the side mirror. For a moment, she saw herself at 19, standing under a motel lamp, watching taillights disappear. But that girl had been waiting for a rescue that never came. Today the rescue was her own foot on the pedal. She glanced one last time, then turned the mirror away. The road ahead unfurled, and somewhere inside her, Linda Baker lifted away. Rebecca Russell was going home. She arrived at the little cottage after dark, the white fence glowing under a single porch bulb. The next morning, she woke to the smell of coffee drifting through the screen door. Donna stood on the step, two steaming mugs in her hands, a smile that needed no words.
You didn't have to come this early.
I've waited 18 years to bring you coffee. I wasn't waiting another day.
They sank into the wicker chairs, watching the sun lift over the rooftops. Rebecca slipped a leather wallet from her pocket, the same one she'd held in every lonely room. She opened it and removed the old photograph, edges frayed from 1,000 nights of staring. Then she pulled a new one from her coat, the image from the park, all of them laughing, Mia holding a dandelion. She slid both photographs into the wallet, side by side, the past and the present finally touching. Now she spent Saturday mornings at the local library, reading to a circle of children who called her Miss Rebecca. Amanda's daughters ran to her at the fence, gripping her legs before she could even kneel. Dinners were no longer quiet. They were full of spilled milk and crayons and stories that made Donna throw her head back and laugh. On slow Sundays, Donna and Rebecca walked to the bench by the pond. They talked about nothing. They talked about everything. Some families are built on secrets, but the strongest ones survive the truth. And the wallet that once held only a ghost now held 2 whole lives. One faded and worn, a testament to holding on. One fresh and bright, a promise of what stays. The sun sank low over the park, and the 2 women sat on the bench a little closer than before. No one spoke. The silence was enough. Rebecca closed the wallet and slipped it into her pocket, over her heart, where it had always been. Evening fell over the cottage. The first stars pricked the violet sky, and a cool breeze stirred the climbing roses on the trellis. Rebecca stepped onto the porch, the screen door tapping shut behind her. The wood still held the warmth of the day. She pulled the worn wallet from her pocket, opened it, and gazed at the 2 photographs side by side.
Thanks, Dad, for everything.
The words were barely a whisper, but they seemed to fill the quiet air around her. Inside the house, the muffled sound of children's laughter and Donna's voice calling the girls to wash up. Rebecca looked up at the stars, the wallet pressed to her chest, her heart beating steady beneath it. She smiled, a quiet, unshakable smile that reached her hazel eyes and stayed there. The camera pulled back slowly, and the cottage glowed warm against the deepening night, voices and light spilling from the windows. Fade to black.